Firstly, I want to welcome everybody. For those of you who don't know Medici, and for those of you who don't know me, let me just very briefly share with you who we are, what we do. We have been doing this work in FinTech since 2013. So Medici is the digital destination for everything FinTech all around the world, all around the clock. We support the largest FinTech community in the world today. It's a fairly diverse community of founders, financial services executives, investors, regulators, students, increasing population of that, and essentially anybody who wants to get into FinTech and learn, go Medici.com is the destination. MEDICI Studio is something that we have been at for about 18 months now, and extremely popular portion of our offering. And I'm really happy that we are able to bring the power of MEDICI Studio in these special times that we live in. Another thing that is very special about this particular session is the focus on female founders. We believe in the power that we are able to share with everybody in the ecosystem from the experiences of strong women. And the one thing I did not want to do was to just check the box that this is our women thing, our female thing. So I felt very strongly about that. And for me to bring this together to our audience with 4 friends and 4 powerful women and 4 inspiring women, I could not be happier. So I want to thank them for being here. I also want to thank everybody in the audience for being here. And for taking the time. With that, I'm very, very pleased to hand over the microphone and the camera and the discussion here to Melissa Sassy. So Melissa is with IBM. She is Chief Penguin of IBM Z. That's a very long story that you have to ask her some other time as to why she calls herself Chief Penguin. But I would like her to share her main focus these days at IBM, which is Hyperaccelerator, and we are proud partners in the Hyperaccelerator program. And so with that, I would like to welcome Melissa to give us the welcome keynote here. Thank you so much.
So I will start off and do a quick introduction of myself. And by the way, I do have 2, I don't know if you can see that they say IBM, but I do have 2 IBM penguins that I've brought with me today, who are my partners in chaos, if you will. So I'm Melissa Sassy, and I will tell you quickly about where the Chief Penguin thing came from. So I worked in another large tech company, and I saw a lot of people had these animal titles and Twitter handles that were about ninja cats and T-Rexes and all these things. And I spent a lot of time out in the field. And I was in Pakistan working with an amazing female founder who runs an organization in Karachi, Pakistan. And Jihan Ara has the title of the Big Bird, and her organization is called the Nest.io, and it's an accelerator that does very interesting things, not just for women, but the Pakistani community as a whole. And her organization, the Nest.io, right, the Nest, the Big Bird, so she gave herself the title the Big Bird. And I thought, wow, if we could have a big bird in Pakistan, if there can be a ninja cat in Washington State and a T-Rex and wherever that dude lives, what can I be? And I looked at my job title and I said, that's really boring. I don't want to be whatever it was. And that doesn't describe me. And so I thought about, what animal I could be. And, I do a lot of work within the open source community. And, for us techies, we know that the penguin is tied to open source. So I don't know, I became the Chief Penguin. I changed it in the IBM directory. So anyone who looks up my job title in our corporate directory finds Chief Penguin. Luckily, I haven't gotten fired yet. And the good thing is my GM, who has one person in between me and IBM CEO, refers to me as the Chief Penguin. So I think I'm good. All right, with that, let me jump in and tell you a little bit about what I have cooking. So I run a few different things within IBM and beyond. I'm very active with the UN. I'm very active with other organizations like the IEEE when it comes to empowering early stage entrepreneurs and tech skills. empowering young people, empowering early stage founders with the secret sauce that they need to build and scale. So I came to IBM last year to create a startup program within my division, all focused on FinTech, health tech, InsurTech, organizations that are dealing with high levels of personally identifiable information. It's got a lens on data protection, privacy, and security. And the lens on this was, why should enterprise customers of IBM be the only ones to access these incredible tools to keep data secure? Why shouldn't these tools be available to early stage founders as well? So that was the birth of IBM HyperProtect Accelerator. As Aditya mentioned, he is a partner of ours, along with Village Capital, Queen City FinTech, and a number of different amazing organizations. And what I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about that quickly. This is just a one-pager. Feel free to take a screenshot of this or take a picture. We are recruiting 30 startups from all over the world. I'm creating 2 cohorts. I have 15 startups in my program right now from 8 countries. Again, it's FinTech, InsurTech, health tech. If you're handling sensitive data, come to me, talk to me. If you're less than $1 million in revenue, less than 5 years old, if you've got a pitch deck, if you've got a website, if you've got a matching email address to your website, you are in my target audience, if you will. But I'm always happy to collaborate with mentors, other accelerators, incubators. Talk to me. What do the startups get that are part of the program? They get $120,000 in cloud credits. They can use that for amazing products and services, whether that's data protection, privacy and security, blockchain, Watson, or if you're a health tech, Watson Health. We provide 1 year of business enablement, and that's one-on-one business enablement with our accelerator partners. So how can we help you to build and scale from a business perspective? And then I have a team of technical mentors who help with your technical roadmap, your architecture, where are you going from a technical perspective? Access to our IBM network. Obviously, we're one of the biggest tech companies on the planet, so we've got a lot of customers. We've got a big network. How can we work together to go to market, hand in hand? Marketing collaboration, showcasing at IBM events, all kinds of fun stuff. So the application is live now. You can find it at ibm.biz/HPA-apply. You can see it on the screen now, or hopefully you can. We again launched April 16th. We're closing applications on the 15th of June. I run office hours. I do that every Wednesday at 5 a.m. my time. So that's 5 a.m. Pacific time. Yes, I know that's crazy. Many of you are thinking, wait a second, that means you have to wake up at 4 in the morning. I do. It's a long story, and I must say that what fires me up is working together with early stage entrepreneurs and young people to help them build and scale their businesses. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm fired up. And so I have these office hours. You can find the link to the Eventbrite in that site, and we can talk one-on-one. So we'll announce the cohort mid-September, and we'll start our mentorship in November. Again, these are the key dates. I already reviewed those, but that's just a quick snapshot so you remember. June 15th is what you're looking for. This is a link to the Eventbrite. This is actually one of our female founders. She has an organization that focuses on skincare and working with doctors to help identify skin challenges. And what I love about this is she's got a diverse data set. So it's looking at many different women with many different skin tones. With that, I am very, very excited to be on this panel today and to kick off an amazing group of women who are passionate about empowering the next generation of founders. For me, I am very excited to increase the diversity and inclusion of my program. We have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. I am on the front line of reviewing applications that come in to my program and did it in other tech companies. And the number of applications that I see coming in from female founders is dismal. So women out there who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, or you're already an entrepreneur, reach out to me. How can I do it better? How can I bring more of you into my world? And how can we work together to build the next generation of founders? All right, Aditya, I think that's all I got. Did I miss anything?
I think you're good. I'm going to fill in some blanks here, Melissa, if you don't mind. So
Please. Yes.
you can stop sharing your screen so that people can see the rest of us. Awesome. So Melissa, thank you so much. And you know, if you felt the energy there about what Melissa believes in and what she wants to do, you're not alone, right? I think every time I have had a conversation with Melissa, that's the energy I feel, that's the passion I feel, and that is infectious. That's something that tells us that, you know, we can actually do so many things with the time that we have, you know, as professionals, as human beings. And you know, if I could get a little bit philosophical here, I want to start off the next part of our program with Siley and Tena with that question. Okay. And again, let me assure you that, you know, because we are also friends, they trust that I'm going to ask them questions without any prep. So they have no idea what I'm going to ask them. So I hope you're ready. Siley and Tena there, right? Yes, I see a little bit of nervousness with Siley. So I'm going to put you on the spot first. So, Siley, you could have chosen to do so many different things. You have been in, you know, 3 different continents. You've worked and lived in a few different countries. You could have done anything with your time. Why did you choose to start the company you started 5 years ago?
Okay, thanks Aditya for starting with putting me on the spot. Really great meeting all of you here, and this is for a great cause very close to my heart, to support more women entrepreneurs to come in and try their hand, because I think they're awesome at it. I think women are especially awesome at building consumer companies because of so much direct consumer empathy. And that's a little bit where my story is also embedded in, right? So I grew up in Pune in India. Aditya and I happen to share the same hometown. And I did my college in Singapore, and I worked in Bay Area and Chicago for 5-7 years each. And then I was thinking a lot about it when I was living in Chicago, because I was at that point in my career where I was thinking about where should really be the next destination where I can have the biggest impact. I was a management consultant in Chicago. And as I worked with many different companies, mostly very large companies, I felt that while we are making a difference in those large companies' bottom line every year with a lot of hard work, I am not feeling very, very gratified about it. I don't feel great about the work I do every day, about the value I'm adding to the community. And my heart just pulled me back home. Even after 15 years, 16 years abroad, I never really lost that pull from home. So while everybody advised me that after so many years of living and working abroad, it will be very difficult to work in a market like India, I just decided to go for it. And even when I came back to India, it is really of value that the context is that every company would want a management consultant who's worked in a strategic role in a company like that. So large companies here are also looking for people to come in and bring that multi-market expertise. But here I felt like I came to here because of the pull that my heart had to make a difference here. And then as I started spending time in the country, I started uncovering more than the first world problems, right? So initially when I came in, I was like, yeah, it's like, how do I find things to do? Data quality is not good enough. There is not enough to download. Where's the content? Netflix doesn't show half the things here. But as I really started living here and walking down and meeting a lot of people, I felt like a lot of the basics things are not yet solved. And I started slowly feeling that sense of purpose that I've learned so much from everywhere. I need to bring it here and change the expectation. Like there is a big association of chalta hai in India. So when chalta hai, when people in India say chalta hai, that means that's okay. So when things are not working, they say it's okay. When a product or app or service or a bank or TV or internet, anything is not working, I would get agitated because you expect a certain level of customer service, you expect a certain level of product quality. But in India, people are like, that's okay, because the expectation is not there. That's something that you get, something that you pay for should be excellent. And I felt that there is something that needs to change here. At least I can bring in that expectation, and I would want a customer to want something that is excellent, that works every time, and that should start becoming a basic expectation. So I felt like I want to build something for the customer. But even amongst that, I felt like as I went around India in my daily life, I felt like banking is something that is really hard to access for many people here, right? So, and as a woman, it's especially worse. Like every time I go to a bank, I'll be treated differently than a man who's dressed similarly. For example, if I dress in an Indian attire with bindi and with my traditional attire, I would not be treated with any respect. But if I go in a business suit like Aditya, I will be treated with utmost respect and get whatever I want, right? So it's very, very different. And I feel like that's where tech can make a big difference. Tech can take all these judgmental bias layers away and really just serve the person by the data or by the just the details of who they are as a financial data only. Like we don't need to take the personal data. We don't need to take how they look or how they dress or where they live into account. We just need to take what it matters and take all the biases away. So I felt like access to finance is something that is really important. It really makes a big difference to people's lives, access to education and access to credit. At the right time, credit can change lives. And I finally found why my heart was pulling back. It just settled. I just felt I'd found it. And it's been 5 years since I've been building it. So that's my story, long story to your question, Aditya.
No, thank you so much, Sally. I mean, I think that is so powerful, right? To be able to do something and to really put your heart into it and make a difference. And we're going to come back to the last 5 years in a second, but then let me ask you a similar question, but kind of picking up from the last thing that Sally said. You wear so many different hats, and I'm going to have you talk about at least a few of them today. You wear a lot of different hats, but I believe that technology is a common element in all of the work that you do. Would you say that is true? Or, I mean, how important is technology for all of the work you do? And please share with us, why you do what you do, and share with us, some of the activities that you are doing on the ground, literally in Brazil. So, Tena, please.
First, thank you so much for being so kind and put all this amazing women together, to share their stories. I think it's so important right now, especially on the challenging times that we live, to shine and to give some hope at least, and to inspire people. See, technology has helped my life in so many ways. Even to survive. I started coding when I was 12 years old to help out my family. And that part was survival. But along the way, helped me to put together my dreams and my father's dreams together in a way that we can scale today. So my father is my big inspiration. He helped to build large programs of credit, especially for rural areas and small farm families. And today I see that I have a responsibility and a legacy to expand the work that he started. So I feel like generations coming. I hope my children will carry that too. And I do see that technology can help to make it exponential, the impact that we do. And I see as a female founder what everybody says that is very difficult, especially in the tech industry, especially in finance, and for young women to achieve that. So the way that we together, we built the funding for the company that we have today, Moeda, was through an ICO. So we issue a cryptocurrency, and that was because we also were trying to get funding from VCs, but it's very hard for a women founder to get traditional money. And then I saw in the blockchain community and the cryptocurrency community a better way and an easier way to get funding. So I got my together with my business partners, Isa and Brad, and then we launched the cryptocurrency. So that was again the technology helping me to enable to get funded and then move forward with the companies that we have today. So now we built a large group of companies. The main one is the FinTech, which allow us to put the payments together and see where the money is going through. We have like many different tokens. We work with Hyperledger Fabric to do the accountability of the project. So today we enable anyone in the world to invest in projects, beautiful projects here in Brazil. And with that experience, what I got together was a big, beautiful portfolio of women entrepreneurs businesses. And I'm very excited every time like we found like a new cooperative or women-owned business that need this, especially the seed capital. And the second thing that we help is with the accelerator program, which we provide all the education. Sometimes they need a help on governance, like they need other things that we can add up and put the value chain like all together, like a vertical business for them, and work with market niches, like and other things. And the third one is the market. So we build up a marketplace. So it's the capital, the knowledge, and the market that they have access with us. So those three, like they complete like a virtual like circle of abundance. That's why we call like our mission to humanize finances. So I'm here working together with the private and public sector to build new ways and new classes of assets, humanized assets. So people can invest not just in like big companies in the stock market, but also the small businesses and the SMEs and the women-owned businesses by like easy as a click. So it's like democratizing the finance as well. So I see like technology helping to put together this beautiful ecosystem to help to flourish.
Thank you, Thena. You know, I like to keep things unpredictable. So Neza, do you mind if I ask you a question right now? I know that this is not in the planned portion.
No, of course.
But the question I want to ask you is a bit of the following. If you could share with us, you have worked in Morocco and you have worked in New York. You have been a woman founder with different businesses in both Morocco and New York.
And Paris, France.
Is there a big difference in working in an emerging market and working in a so-called developed market as a woman founder in your mind?
There is definitely, and to add to your question, I also have developed a company in France, which is a different also market than the US, because Europe is an older market as well. And so as a woman founder, definitely I relate to the story of Sayali, that when you are in an emerging market, you definitely need to make sure to present yourself as powerful in your behavior as a man. But when I came to the US, I was also surprised to see that the gender equality topic is also very, very backward compared to Europe, because women after World War II have put themselves into working, and there were a lot of feminist movement in 1968 and all along that have put women in the workplace and have solved a lot of gender equality situation, like gender pay gap and so on, that are much more advanced there in Europe than they are here. I hope I'm answering your question on the comparison.
It is, and it's actually fascinating, right? That, you know, what we might expect as, you know, advanced thinking in gender equality is not always true. You know, it's actually amazing. And, you know, not to get into the political side of things, but we have had women prime ministers and presidents in emerging markets before the so-called developed markets as the US and so on. Saili, back to you. I really want to, and thank you, Neza, for being a sport and jumping in. I'm going to try and keep it like this. Slightly back to you. I chose the topic for this session very deliberately, right? I said, this is frontline work.
Yeah.
This is work that it is not something that you are, solving just first world problems sitting like you said. And again, I don't have anything against big companies, right? Big companies are why the rest of the ecosystem can also survive, right? So, but, you chose to not be in an ivory tower, solving fancy strategy problems in 2x2 matrices. You chose to jump into the deep end, so to speak, and make an impact on the front lines. Can you tell us about the impact that your work has? Can you tell us about the problems that your business, your technology, your company is solving for real people?
Yeah. Very true that this is extremely frontline work in India where access to credit is still a large problem. So what we are solving for is access to credit for people in the middle class segment in India, if you may. Our average user incomes range from 12,000 rupees all the way to 50,000 rupees, but not much higher than that. That's per month. For these customers, usually banks will enable them to open accounts, etc., but it would be very difficult for them to get like credit cards or personal loans or stuff like that. So they do have issues with access to finance. Second is that because the financial literacy or awareness in India is lower, people do not have a lot of confidence when they interact with a financial service provider. So they are a little bit apprehensive, they are a little bit afraid because there's a trust deficit, there's a knowledge deficit, and they feel like they do not understand all the pieces of it. So they either have behavior of here's everything and they'll give it to some neighborhood person who will then deal with many banks and get them a loan, and they'll just give them every single document, therefore really endangering all their personal data. Or they will sit back and hope that a lot of telecallers will call and push some product and they will just engage with that. So there's a lot of apprehension due to this gap in trust and knowledge. So what we enable these people to do is engage in a very open and transparent manner. Like if patients and now pay you, if patient says that you are approved, then you're approved. And it's a clean process from there where you just have to give basic documents and then you get your loan directly in the bank. And if you need help, then you can just WhatsApp with an agent in a very friendly manner. They will explain to you why are we taking certain data or which document you need and how do you get through the process. And this assistance is something that we really care about because a lot of our users are taking credit for the first time in their life. Any form of credit, they're taking it for the first time. They're extremely afraid of what this financial institution is going to do. Whatever problem it happens. Like we always wonder why, right? I'm the one giving you money. Why are you afraid? I should be afraid of giving you the money, but that's not the case. Customers do not know whether to trust the institution or not, whether to trust the process or not, and all of that. So I think the friendly part, like the tech makes it unbiased and able to deliver credit without much documentation and physical verifications and all of that. So it makes it very fast and easy. But our assistance is where we add the human element. And I love how Tena said that it was about humanizing finance. And we humanize it by being a friendly advisor to the customer and advise them on how this credit will work for them. So this is done in WhatsApp in any language that the customer wants, and it is done in the most friendly way. So just to help the customer understand what is the product about. And through this, we have been able to serve a large group of customers. We are serving like 60 cities, and the customer is able to engage with us in a very friendly way is very important in India. So in a very friendly way where they can trust that there is no fine print, there is no hidden fees, there's nothing. There's just what you see is what you get.
So trust is a very important word, and maybe I want to pass the microphone back to Tena here on the trust factor. Right, you are dealing with food, agriculture, what people eat. So clearly, there has to be trust. And I was looking at some of the pictures that you had shared with me of your recent work, and I'm actually going to try and share some of them while you speak, if you don't mind. Okay.
Okay.
So, how important is trust? I mean, obviously the answer is it's very important, but if you can give us some examples of how trust and you literally being on the ground with helping people, training people, coaching people, showing people, tell us how important that is and how you do that. And I'm going to try and show some pictures while you speak.
Beautiful. So yes, food is very important, especially right now. Like I saw like reports from the World Food Program that more than 200 million people will be getting some, like getting not getting food, and will be a shortage as well because of the farmers feeling insecure to produce. So most of the farmers here in Brazil, they used to have the street farm, and they were all, right now they are closed because of the lockdowns, and they have to quickly turn their business models into delivery, and people had to really trust like the food will be safe with all the procedures and with all the cleaning, sanitizing, and everything that is needed. And also that the people will be protected, the people that are handling food. So we created this program called Vida, means life, and where we work with the farmers together. We provide them the protection equipment, masks, and everything that is needed to handling the food, as well as the marketplace. And the beautiful pictures that we see are from like all organic food coming from the local farmers. And that is so like that is needed, that is sustainable, that is that's what we do, as well as with hardware for them in the ground. And we work with planning and doing a business plan and how they will handle. That's where you can purchase the food, and you see the stories of the farmers, and as well the technology that we build with the FinTech. They receive the payment right away, so people can buy with credit cards, but we anticipate the payment right into their accounts, and that is available for them in seconds. And through the blockchain, you can see how much went to the cooperative of farmers directly to the farm, and you see in a transparent way how you can improve their lives, like by creating jobs. And we have some impact metrics that we put that to. Next week and in few upcoming weeks, we will measure also carbon footprint, and everything that you see in that screen is the Stellar blockchain protocol, where you can see the split of the payment going right away to the farmer. And also all the protection equipment we are building together with the artisans from other projects. So you see like the masks and everything that they are using. And I'm using too, because I literally like that is me. Like so they're all handmade by the artisans from the other projects too. So I'm like literally on the front line. And what we made available was like a way for people from abroad to invest into that project using like a crowdfunding tool into their website, so anyone can invest. And that is a return, a financial return associated to that, and also, of course, the impact return. And those are new ways for people to trust by sharing the information, like using the technology with the blockchain. Like you can audit that like instantly, so you can see that the money that you invest, when you purchase the food, and you can see how we can bring more conscious to the customer by choosing what is more accessible, choosing to buy local, because what we see in this big like crisis and challenging times, the big supermarkets, they will survive, but the small agricultural farm families, they need the help right now. And that is the most sustainable thing, like buying purchasing products locally. And if we don't provide us safety and security for the farmers, what will happen in the upcoming months is that they will stop producing. because if they are afraid and if they cannot find ways, and the restaurants that they used to work with, the street farms and everything, they will be like afraid to, oh, I'm not going to plant and I'm not going to produce. What we see is a lot of waste too, big trucks of food waste like getting lost because people don't know how to put and even to donate. Like the food banks sometimes they don't even have the storage necessary for that. So now we are creating with the government here like ways and means for the government to help. And so people can call, the farmers can call the government, and they can say, oh no, that is a food bank here, and we are doing this match too. So just not just for the people that can purchase the food, the people can purchase the products, they can also donate the food credits, and then we are putting together, we are handling for the philanthropy side for people that need the help with the food, and they can shop into the market with those food credits as well. So like both people can help, and like matching the people that need the help. And with that program to provide food, we are also like doing training and to allocate people into new jobs, because a lot of people lost their jobs as well. And we are now creating jobs with the delivery, with like the other things, and now we are helping to allocate people so we can provide the solution, not the emergency and short term, but also long-term solutions, so people can help to rebuild most of their lives.
So you are really using technology in so many different ways, but you don't use technical words when you describe your work, which is a great thing, right? You talked about blockchain, you talked about payment gateway, you talked about about the telematics to capture data on the farm output. You talked about marketplaces so people can sell their things. You're doing so many technology-enabled things, but they are real, day-to-day life-enhancing things at the end of the day. And that is very fascinating. I want to ask you a question, because I know people always focus on the challenges and the negatives. And I don't think we should take away anything from the difficulties of being a woman founder, the difficulties of being a woman professional. But I want to focus on the positives. Tena, do you think that your job would be harder if you were a man?
I think as a woman, I bring the sensibility and the empathy to the technology that a man probably would be harder for a man to do that job.
Mayshad, do you agree with that? The job is easier because you're a woman?
No, I agree that there is a woman. I say that women are the mothers of next generation. You don't have to carry a baby or be responsible of a child at home to not care. We're transmitters, we're natural transmitters, and we always care on what's going to happen to the next generation. So automatically, and I'm not excluding those values in men, but it's just has been the natural role of women on earth. And so in their mindset as an entrepreneur, they will always think of social impact. And so the why women founders are not yet as successful as men, it's because on the financial aspect and the pragmatic side, the technology side, they have had amazing ideas, but they didn't have the proper training as well for the majority to implement it into a very pragmatic business model. And so we are getting there. There is still a lot of work to be done, and it's a continuous work. That's why every one of our project and what you're doing at DITA in educating men and women in FinTech, all this work will take it that women will become amazing entrepreneur with time, with that humanitarian side, with the environmental impact, social impact, and so on. So I'm very positive as well in thinking of where we're going, but it's a long-lasting work.
You have the microphone, Chief Penguin. Can we have a successful male Chief Penguin, or is that only for women?
Yeah, and actually, my colleague Stephen Dickens, who is in our IBM's sales team, we actually arm wrestled over it, but I won. And so I agreed that he could be the king penguin. He wanted to be king queen, but I said, no, I'm already the chief, but I will allow you to be the king penguin. It might still be a sore spot for Stephen. Hi, Stephen, if you're here. He will get over it. We're still buddies. What I wanted to say is regarding, the technology comment that one of our speakers, highlighted is, I think it's really important for us to not just think about how do we, empower the next generation, whether that's women and girls or anyone else, through tech skills, and thinking about how do we not just empower people to become entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, whether that's in FinTech or anywhere else, but how do we empower people to make meaningful use of the internet? And that's digital skills. And that's not just about how does everyone become an entrepreneur? It's also about how do we make, whether you're a rural farmer in India, whether you're looking after a market in Brazil, everyone needs digital skills. And that may involve emotional intelligence, handling, security and privacy. I'm a big advocate for digital inclusion, and I think this is necessary for anyone on the planet, regardless of who you are or what you are.
No, I think that's important, just to keep that in perspective. So thank you, Melissa. On the same topic, Sally, right? What are your thoughts? I mean, is there a clear benefit to being a woman in the work that you do?
Yeah, I think I strongly aligned with the empathy part, having the empathy for the customer, being able to put them in your shoes and develop a product that really serves their need. I think it's also beneficial in the workplace. I think many people align with the purpose that we have. So if you have a very clear why of whatever we are doing, and you can bring the team around that, then whether the team consists of
I think we lost Sally.
So speaking of digital inclusion, it's not just about knowing to code. It's also about how do people have access to the internet, high-speed internet. 49% of the world doesn't have access to the internet. So internet access is a thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Concept of digital inclusion. We talk a lot about diversity and inclusion all the time, but it's a very good point to create that equity in internet access, because we know it now with this challenging confinement time that we're going through, but we've known it for the past decade. It's through technology and digital that we will be getting all our trainings and education and content.
So I'm going to come back to the topic about what you just said, that especially in challenging times, right, how important it is for everybody to have access to the internet. I mean, if we are truly as a society going to go more towards work from home, it's going to become normal, well, then you have to have that access. Let's kind of come back to the COVID-19 conversation in a little bit. I want to go back to Sally and ask you a slightly different question, Sally, about the you have done in financial services, especially, right? We live in a regulated ecosystem, right? In a highly regulated ecosystem. No matter which country you are in, if you are doing something in financial services, FinTech sounds glamorous and sexy from the outside, but the reality of building and running a FinTech company is very different from building and running a tech company. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to navigate the special constraints in the financial services world as you built your company.
So I think, Aditya, there are few pros in the Indian market that the government is itself enabled, right? So the India Stack, which is the tech stack that it's a government platform which includes the identity, which is based on Aadhaar. So there's identity of an individual that is on a digital platform that is digitally verifiable. Then there is a bank account that, which is a Jan Dhan bank account, along with the usual bank accounts that has high coverage in the Indian population. And then it's the mobile access, which in the recent years with proliferation of Geo, etc., has really reached a lot of the population. So in India, I think the regulatory world is simplified by having a government protocol or India stack to work with. So with that, we have a platform to build digitally enabled products. But of course, it's a newer system, it's a newer market. So as people are using it, the regulator is also learning about the uses and misuses and the dangers to the customer. And in their role to protect the customer, they are going through a lot of changes. So over the last 5 years, as we've built it, the regulation around whether you can serve a loan digitally, whether you can serve, even mutual fund insurance, etc., digitally or not, has changed a lot as the system is learning of the uses, misuses, and dangers, and security and privacy concerns of the users as well. So I think what we have learned is that we do have to evolve a lot with the market. We do have to be very, very nimble on our tech side and to change our flows and our product immediately when the regulation changes, and work with all the partners in the ecosystem to still develop, using the new constraint, immediately develop something that the customer can relate to. So in that whole thing, we've made very, very many changes to our product. We have had a very instant 5-minute loan, but when the regulation changed and their physical layers started getting added, we then had a 5-hour loan. And then when more regulations got added, we had a 2-day loan. And now I think things are moving back, and we will again have a 5-minute loan for some instances and a 5-day loan for some other instances and a 1-day loan. So we work with the regulations to create the best experience from the customer. And that's where our tech team plays a huge part, by being very nimble and quickly adjusting to whatever is happening today. And then that's where our assistance also plays a huge part, because we are always explaining to the customer why a certain thing has just changed to either get simpler or get more complicated. But we are always there on the human side along with the tech side to help the customer through the changes.
Would you have similar challenges in Brazil when you are dealing with the regulatory piece of the work you do? Because you touch so many different pieces of the puzzle, right? You touch, with your cryptocurrency part, with your commerce part, with your payments part, with your food part. I can't imagine, that you have it easy. How do you deal with that, Tena?
Yeah, sometimes we are like too much on the innovation part, and like to have the regulators like to keep up. So I have to insert myself like into all the group discussions with the government, and be heavily involved on policy making to make sure that we advance. There is like a lot of open minds inside the government that are willing to the change, and now they see the need for the fintechs because the traditional banks are not like able to touch and to reach the people into the ground. And different from India is that like in India you have the digital ID, like here we don't have, it's not mainstream, and that is super hard because even like the government doesn't know their own people. Even the social programs and the social IDs here, they don't have qualitative information. So that the person is a number, but we don't know if they are unemployed, how we can help them further along. And this is so important. I saw like when billions of volunteers in India volunteer to get their digital ID. I think we should do that here in Brazil too, so that will make things easier, especially when you need the identity and the authentication to give a banking account. And then after giving access to finance, then we can work together with the people for the financial literacy part too. Because I think it's harder here in some parts of the Brazil, especially in the rural areas, People don't know how to do like their savings, how to plan for the next month. We saw here like more like 1 million companies, they closed after the first month of the lockdown. That was reported here, because people like mostly didn't have the plans and the means. They working from paycheck to paycheck, and it's hard because of like that should be on the childhood, should be on the schools, like how you save for the hard times, and we don't have. So that is a lack, especially for women-owned businesses. They cannot give like banking guarantees because most of the property and the car and the house is in the name of the husband. So here it's harder for women in the world to get a loan, to get anything from the traditional banking. So that's why we developed this program to especially give the seed capital for women, because I know like that is a real need there, and not just the capital, but the ways to work with the smart capital, like to bring that to a good final product that they can sell not just locally, but also export and like the other things that we are doing too. So like those challenging times are highlighting how bad the systems are working, and this too fragmented the financial market. I think it's not just here. We share like similar challenges, and even for the government to provide the social program here, the distribution of finances was hard. People didn't have IDs. So Brazil just discovered this month like millions of people that were not even in the in the traditional registry, not even the digital, the paperwork. so it's, but I think like after this these challenging times, by like working like together, we need to bring more digitalization. We start like to talk about privacy and like other things that goes into the authentication and providing information for the government or for the private sector. But we will need that to work together to get through the lockdown, because I saw like in China and Korea, they have the identity for the health, where people can now walk freely on the streets, but they know like the red and green, and if they have the test or not, and they got this together. So we built like a platform here using blockchain for anonymously people submit if they were like tested or not, they received medication, or the doctor was taking care of their quarantine. So just to access that information, we had to work on the private sector to know, because people were not willing to share that, because they were afraid to lose their jobs here in Brazil too, if they had the virus or not. Yeah. So those are.
I want to shift the topic again, and I'm going to get a little bit personal now here with my questions. So bear with me. But it's important for people to know, especially young people who are looking at starting companies and young women who are thinking of becoming founders. And as a founder, I can say this, that having run this company for the last 7 years, it has changed me. It has changed me, right? I just saw this horrible news yesterday about a doctor who was working ER. Basically, the coronavirus took her life, and her family said that her being on the front lines in the trenches changed her mentally. And I think that is just so profound. And I don't want to put a negative, starting point to this. I think it's also positive. I'm sure we all have different feelings about how being a founder has changed us personally. I would like all 4 of you to talk about that. How has building a company from scratch changed you? Who wants to go first?
All right, can I go first? I'm sorry, I got too excited about that question. I'll tell you something really fun and interesting, or I think it is. I have my own nonprofit that I started when I was working at Microsoft, so prior to my role at IBM, and I really wanted to be closer to social impact, and I was working in advertising, and I felt like I was telling empowering stories about other people doing inspiring stuff. And I felt like I was on the sidelines of everything. And I thought, what could I do? But I didn't know what my purpose or my passion was. And I stumbled upon something that became what I would consider turning my worst tragedy into my superpower. So my children are victims, me and my children actually are victims of parental kidnapping. So my children were kidnapped by their father 10 years ago. And I can talk about this now in a way that it's like somebody else. And I still am, obviously deeply traumatized. I never got my children back. I know where they are. They're safe. They're healthy. They live in Tunisia, so sandwiched in between Algeria and Libya. We're very, very close. I actually taught myself how to speak Tunisian Arabic. And my daughter one day came to me and she said, Mommy, I'm learning Microsoft. I'm like, so what do you mean you're learning Microsoft? And that's her accent. And I said, I'm like, okay, explain what you mean. And I realized she was learning Word, Microsoft Word, in her classroom, and that she didn't have access to a computer in her classroom and she didn't have access to the internet. And so I thought, I may not have been able to be the mother I wanted to be, I should have been. That's neither here nor there. But I thought, you know what? I can get computers into that classroom. And so I set out on this mission to figure out how can I get 30 computers for this one school in Menza Bourguiba, Tunisia. And I ended up partnering together with my employer and HP to bring 400 computers to 20 schools. I didn't plan on bringing 400 computers to 20 schools. I planned on getting 30 computers to one school. And at that time, I didn't really understand that it wasn't just about having a device, that it was also about the internet, and it was also about skills of the teachers, skills of the administration. And I set out on this mission to figure out, well, what does it mean to empower these schools through digital inclusion? And I did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, and I realized that digital inclusion meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so I thought I'd like to learn a little bit about this. So I grabbed some of my friends who were in Tunisia at the time, engineering students. And I said, I'd like to learn about what does it mean to go out and teach people about digital skills. And Microsoft, again, I was there at the time, agreed to give me 3 weeks off to go and travel around the country teaching kids to code. So I spent 3 weeks traveling around Tunisia. I went everywhere. I went to Ben Garden, which is right on the Libyan border. I was in Jendouba, which is a region in Tunisia next to Algeria. I was in the Sahara. I was in the capital. I was everywhere. I went to 17 cities with a trunk full of laptops and some engineering students. And we got in this car. That car was incredibly smelly at the end of that trip. But what we found is that every time we went to a town, sometimes the mayor would be there. Sometimes kids were singing, and sometimes we'd have a banner. The National Guard showed up to welcome us, which I never really realized, the power that, coming to some of these small villages and towns, could have on young people who didn't have access to computer science education. We came back from this trip and we were sitting in a coffee shop in Tunis. And I'm like, guys, we don't have just this 20 school thing. It's not just us traveling around the country teaching kids to code. We've got a company. So let's launch a company together. We launched the company, and none of us really realized we were founders. We were just kind of like following our passion, doing our thing. A couple of years later, someone said to me, Melissa, you're a founder, right? You're an entrepreneur, right? And why don't you talk about you and your founder story? Because I'm still working at Microsoft. I saw myself as a Microsoftie. Until I realized that you don't have to choose between the different personas that you have in life, or the different things you have in life. You can be an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, and an academic, and all of these things together. I now have taught tens of thousands of kids to code in 12 countries. And I've gotten funding from the US Department of State. We have a robotics lab, an IoT lab. We help young people incubate their ideas. It's all youth-led and youth-run. I've been to Pakistan. I've been in a Syrian refugee camp on the Syrian-Jordanian border. I've got advocates in refugee camps all around the world. And it actually inspired me to think about not only what could I do in my personal capacity as a founder, but it also helped me come into a big tech company and say, how can I think like a founder? What does a founder want and need to build and scale their business? And how can I create a community of founders inside of a big tech company that often feels like a one-to-many model? You know, I worked in lots of different, worked with lots of different accelerators, incubators, tech companies. And a lot of times it feels like you're not part of the community. And this is something that I wanted to bring into my current job. I now have a couple of other startups. So I'm kind of like a founder 3 times over and an entrepreneur. So that's my founder story, and how I stumbled upon becoming a founder by accident. Didn't realize I was a founder until I was actually really a founder. And now I can, put on my profile and everywhere, yes, I'm a founder. Yes, I'm a CEO. And I know that now. So that's my story.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. That was super inspiring, and so many things to capture there. But I don't want to do the talking. I would like Neza to also share her story, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Melissa, for your inspiring story. Amazing. And yes, I think as an entrepreneur, you build and you learn that it's not about owning a company, it's a spirit. It's a spirit that you apply to everything in your life. As an entrepreneur, you are a creator. You create solutions, value, and you make sure that those solutions and that value is scalable. So I started my entrepreneurial journey at the age of 24. And right away, I had my first daughter and my second daughter. And then by the age of 27, so my first entrepreneurial business was when I had my daughters. I decided to go back to Morocco. I was living in DC. So I decided to go back to Morocco to stay closer to my parents. And I started importing US brands into Morocco. Then at the age of 27, when I had developed 12 stores in Morocco, I wanted to get into something that was much more impactful for me, not just a business that doesn't have the social impact aspect. And then I got out from that first company to do work for the United Nations, to do work for the World Food Program in several countries. And then I created my baby, which is Mayshad, which is the company that I have until today, which is from the first syllabus of the names of both of my daughters. So I was a mom. I had 2 daughters. And then I'm just talking about the evolution of an entrepreneur and how things change in your life. And so when I enrolled into this second company, that was very risky because everything was there to build, and the vision of it being more creative and more impactful than just a simple trading business got it that I didn't get a lot of support from my surrounding. People were thinking that I was going into something that was very risky, and my biggest supporters were those 2 human beings that were under my responsibility and that I have been bringing into so many brainstorming sessions all the way through, because they are free of, they can be sometimes like much more innovative in their solutions than us with our predictable mindsets. So yes, an entrepreneurial journey it transforms you. But I think that when you realize that you can create impact through the solutions and the business solutions, and it doesn't have to be a nonprofit, it can be a for-profit company, then that empowers you to keep scaling and understanding that you can go further. And also surrounding yourself with the right teams is important. Surrounding yourself with people that are in the same mindset, because it's not an easy journey, and there is no entrepreneurial journey that will be easy.
Thank you. Thank you, Neza. I mean, how about you, Sally? Did you have a playbook? Did you follow a manual, like, do's and don'ts of building a company, and how did it change you? You're on mute. You're on mute.
So I think I did not really have a playbook. I just had an open mind to learn from the experiences after getting started. I think we started with really getting to know the customers. So I did go on the field a lot. I did a lot of sales events myself. I did a lot of figuring out who is the right customer, the right message, etc., to find that product market fit. But as we continued in the journey and as the product started working, it was also about building the people around me, because it won't be me, right? The buck might stop at me in the business, but it won't be just me. So building the right people into the right team and the right culture then started defining me more deeply, right? I could see that people are following how I work, how I care about the customer. If I call the customer at middle of the night and answer their query, then the whole customer care team would also learn from it, and that culture would start getting formed. So I felt that, right? I felt that we're driving culture, we're building a company and not just doing or building a product. So the organization part does change you. You feel responsible of how not just you behave, but also of how all the people in the team behave. And then you strive to take the right kind of customers in the team.
Tena, has your business transformed you, Tena, as an individual, as a person?
Absolutely. Today I feel very blessed to align my purpose on life with the work that I do. So I love what I do like every day. And that for me is like I've been building companies since little. Like the first like formal company was when I was 16. So that has been like a journey as well into learning new things, like even like opening companies here, opening a company like in New York, like doing business like with both in the private sector, public sector, but I love being with the people, and like I love see how like technology can really make a meaningful like impact into the people's lives. So I go on the ground and like I'm passionate about this, and every time that I work with a new like a business and I bring that kind of like sensibility to that and last time was when I was touched by when I went to the indigenous people in a tribe. So I spent with my team, I brought together some key people of my team that had never been on an indigenous tribe, and they saw like the pure and love like from the children there, and I saw like in their faces like of my team like how they were touched, and they understood immediately what they are doing like with the technology, and like how all the pieces were like plugged together. And for me that was like oh my, like I'm working for for like building technology to serve humanity, and that's for me what makes sense and what fires me up. Like I got to learn a lot about discipline, about courage, like doing ICO, working into the cryptocurrency. There was no manual. Like we do like weekly reports, which is crazy. Like some of the IPO companies, they do like quarterly reports, and because of this market, it's like I had to learn about blockchain and cryptocurrencies very quick. And I got the help of Isa and Brad, like my business partners. And Isa, like she like learning about the Chinese culture as well, and learning about our investors. Most of our investors, they are from 20 to 28 years old, so they are young investors. So I had to learn, even like I started learning Chinese, but this is hard. But that brought me like a really broad perspective of the work that I was doing by going abroad and building companies abroad. That got me so like many insights in how could I serve better like locally the people, and also like to present the Brazilian like culture and value that, to trust and build that trust by sharing not just my story, the company story, but their stories too, and empowering those the beautiful women locally to be a reference and a model too. And that for me is like that changes me, that that builds me up as a person, my character, my everything. I like align
I'm going to ask one last question to both of you, and then we're going to talk about the fund. And you know, we have heard this often, and I have also felt it, and I do feel it. And they say that it's lonely at the top. It's lonely to be a founder. It's lonely to be a CEO. And, you know, different people deal with that differently. I just want to ask the two of you, how do you deal with being lonely at the top?
Oh, Aditya, one is that I do have a great, founder partner, so it has not been as lonely. But I do think that it is still lonely in many ways as a woman founder, as a business lead, and the trust in women leading the business is still not there in the system. So I do like to connect with other women founders. I do like to connect with women leaders in companies, and they always inspire me to stay strong, stay the course, stay strong to my character, and continue doing the work that I believe in. I think that always helps. I think the other thing that helps me is my roots, like my family. I think they always, because they have been there for the whole journey for me, so they have more than enough context of what I've been through, and they have more than enough context of why I particularly feel lonely, not just any kind of loneliness. So I think having that strong anchor has always helped me come through.
Dana?
For me is my family too, the family structure and support, like the pillars to hold me when like the roller coaster of building a business is, like having good business partners and friends, and building a team as a family too. So my team, they know me and they have been through this roller coaster as well. So I trust, and building that trust as a family for me was important to not feel that lonely. But in the end of the day, the responsibility is crazy to handle. So also like spiritually, emotionally, like doing meditation, like taking care of like doing music and like other things, also to allow myself to to be resilient, and like yoga and meditation plays a big part on that too. So that helped me to cope with like many challenges that we have. And in the end of the day, like being on the front line, as you mean, is like you get the first punches, and you gotta like open up like markets and like new things, and get, is a lot of courage and discipline.
And do that with a smile on your face. That is not easy. That is not easy.
Yeah.
Let me segue gently to Neza. And maybe if you want to start with that same question, and then also talk about your work, talk about how you seamlessly integrate your not-for-profit work and your for-profit work, how you seamlessly integrate your life between France and Morocco and New York, and, you know, taking care of many businesses and two wonderful daughters and your team. Tell us about your world. How do you deal with all of this? How do you take care of yourself?
Well, thank you, Aditya. First of all, I had to integrate my daughters in the team from the beginning to make sure that I'm not blamed for spending too much time working. So I had that figured out at the start. And so they have really been growing with the company, and you know, when they're not in school, they're with me, they're being engaged, they're creating their social project with me, they're creating their creative project within the company. So my company, Mayshad, is all focused in empowering women at different social level, hence the nonprofit that works on underserved communities, and on a cross-generational level. And so you can find more detail about it on mayshadgroup.com. And 2 years ago, we created the Mayshad Network, because to your question of isolation when you get to the top, it is definitely, you know, a phenomenon that we all live at the top of our company in all genders. And I always understood the importance for women to actually gather their forces and see how they can be resourceful to each other, because all communities have been able to thrive like that. So let's create a community of female founders and executives and put them together. Some have talent that, and so just as a recruiter, when you're a founder, you know, it's always hard to find the talents that you want. So you can find them in that tribe. As a founder, you're always fundraising. You can find that in that tribe. As a founder and an executives, you want to have exchanges linked to your industry. And sometimes to be in a diverse group makes it even more innovative, because you're not just confined to your own industry with the you know, the blocking mindset that your industry peers can have. So that's what I'm doing here in New York. And so we have an international network of women founders and executives. And the Mayshad ecosystem has just been feeding itself by creating different occasions and products and services for women to find the support with us. And I'm just going to close this by saying also one thing on working through women's empowerment, through social work and business development and on all aspects. Nowadays, women's financial empowerment is the real step to empowerment. Because as Taina said, and Sayali on different occasions, right now we know how to empower ourselves when it comes to doing our yoga, doing our spiritual work on our own. Thank God there are occasions for us to do it, but we can go and reach out to it on our own, because for the past 2 decades we've been taught to do it. But we still need to gather our forces as women to take ourselves to the next level of our financial empowerment, to help each other land our next job, to help each other reinvent ourselves. Because now again, you know, like more than ever, we're seeing how reinvention of your value proposition, of like who you are as a person, whether you're a consultant or you've been working in the corporate world for the past 20 years, you need to know what does the market need, and how can I take my skills and adapt them to the market. So I'm very happy to announce with Aditya that the reason of me being here today, apart from being part of this amazingly inspirational group, with Aditya, we've been thinking on creating a fund for fundraising for COVID-19. So we will embed it to the Mayshad Foundation, which is a nonprofit that is a 501c3 here in the US. And we will be raising funds over the next weeks and creating then a committee to think of which action will be the most relevant then, and how can we use those funds into creating pure social impact. All the funds will be going straight into projects. There is no management fee that anyone is taking. We're all volunteering in this fund to be able to create impact.
Thank you, Neza. And actually, I do want to also ask Tena, especially because she's doing work that is directly related to how we need to protect the food during these crazy times. So I want you to take just about a minute to talk about that, Tena, for sure. And Sally, if there's anything from your world as it relates to COVID-19 work, please do share. So let's come back to the fund, but I want Tena and Sally to talk about what do you see firsthand where you live that is affecting life and what you're doing about it.
So yes, no, it's so beautiful, like coming together, like to making a difference. So here we are helping in different ways, especially with the food security program, like what we are having as donations, we're taking as like food credits, so people can go into the website, access those credits. We have like a list of charities and people that we empower here, and those credits we're given to them, and they can shop on for their preference and what they want, not just food, but also we are adding hygiene products. The artisans from the farms, and they are building the masks, because I have one here. It's a beautiful mask, you see. So it's like all sustainable, like it's all made like the N95 masks, and those are being handling to hospitals and people that are in need, like many countryside hospitals, they don't have even the basic like equipment. So what we have done as well was a platform for people to reach out to tell us if they're having the symptoms, if they got tested or not, if they received good care and from the doctors in their side. So by collecting that data, we call it decentralized.org. I can share the website here if you.
And we will share the links in the follow-up email to everybody,
Beautiful.
Right? So we will share all the links. Yeah.
No problem. But with this tracking system, then we are allowed to, from the governance side, to better like decision making towards those programs that we are giving, both to match people that want to donate here with people that need the help and where they are, and like everything, like the assessment of data we are doing, taking care.
No, thank you, Tena. I mean, there is so much work happening on the ground. Sally, anything you want to share, from your world in terms of the COVID-19 fight that we're all fighting?
So I think there's a lot of local groundwork that we are supporting. Some of our partners like Swiggy and Zomato are providing like grocery kits and foods to the areas that do not have good access right now. So we are, as a team, helping a lot of these causes. As an organization, we have supported the PM Cares Fund, which is a Prime Minister's fund, which is supporting a lot of people in need right now. I think one of the big things is also about our loans and the dues that people have. So we have a moratorium going on, which is industry-wide, countrywide, and all the financial institutions can decide to offer it to their customers. So we have offered our customers an option to pause their payments for 3 months, and they can come back and start their payments once we are out of the crisis. However, coming out over time, we expect a lot of the small businesses to be very badly affected, like Tena was saying. So we will look to change how we underwrite them. We look to change how we really help them with smaller piece, at least smaller sachet trade products and then see how they can use that to come back and do more again. So there'll be a lot that unfolds over the next few months that we are preparing towards and figuring out how we can do right by our customer and our community through this crisis.
Thank you, Sally. And this page that I'm showing here on the screen, it is the new fund page that Mayshad and Medici have launched, and we will be updating this page with stories from the front lines of fighting this pandemic. So we'll be updating this page. The URL is gomedici.com/donate. So gomedici.com/donate, where you can take a look at the credentials of both Medici and Mayshad. Mayshad Foundation. Can you share just a little bit about Mayshad Foundation before we wrap, Neza, so people are familiar with your work on the foundation side?
Sure. Well, you can find more information on the Mayshad Foundation .org. We have been doing work in different countries in Africa, but also a lot in Morocco, in rural parts of Africa, supporting women micro-entrepreneurs in developing their business, and women cooperatives also in enhancing their capacity building. And we also partner with other existing foundations that do work, St. Jude's Hospital and other ones. We help raise funds to help them create more impact. Here in New York, we've been developing a program, an educational program for public colleges that we tested as a pilot in City College, New York. It's an entrepreneurial program that goes on for a semester, teaching kids who are studying business and finance to become entrepreneurs, to have access to funds and resources. And now with Medici, I'm very proud to move forward with this fund, because I did think of, like, I think all of us, what can we do? How can we support the consequences of this COVID-19? But Aditya reached out to me, and it was great to do it together, and I'm very happy to launch this with Aditya. It wasn't something that I felt like doing alone, because there is so much to do in there, and it's good to do it with friends and people who are trustworthy and encouraging.
Thank you for the partnership here, Neza. I want to, and I know we are out of time, and I really want to just take only about 15 seconds to talk about how this fund is going to work, right? When you go to the page, gomedici.com/donate, you will be able to basically make a contribution directly online. And you can either press Learn and Donate, where you will also get a year of Medici subscription along with the donation, or if you're already a Medici member, then you can donate directly. All the funds collected, like Neza said, will go directly to people who are doing work on the ground. Our goal here is to use the funds to support small organizations, solo volunteers with more resources. There is a lot of money flowing into the large organizations already. We want to spend the money on the people who are selflessly doing things in an unorganized way. We want to help them in any part of the world, right? We will just like Neza said, this is a network of trusted relationships. If we know you are doing work, we don't need anything more. We will just support it. So I really encourage everybody to spread the word. Let's collect some money. Let us get the money into the hands on the ground, on the front lines, and who better than female founders to deal with the front lines. And I could not be happier for how this program has come together. So I want to thank all of you who are in the audience. And I want to thank Melissa, Neza, Tena, and Siley for doing this and for your partnership. Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you.